Hey everyone, the St. George election this year is incredibly important. Go to votestg.com to see who's running and what they stand for, or visit us at our voter booth at Digby's Market, Red Rock Bicycles, or down in the park.
It's really interesting, is I think in the 70s, is trying to replicate Utopia for mice. If they had all the resources and everything they needed, what would happen? Well, they didn't even meet capacity within that universe. They imploded, basically. They started creating their own problems. I think mothers just focused more on grooming, and there was a couple strong male mice. The weaker male mice were hiding in the rafters. They were, their own children were dying. Like, they were creating their own issues, even though they had all the resources, capabilities, that they needed. If we don't have continual growth, change, challenges to overcome, we'll create worse ones.
Yeah. Or we'll create ones that make no sense.
Yeah.
Like we dive off into chaos, right? And almost like an insanity, right? We almost like lose our minds into it. And this is an odd transition of going into mental health, but like truthfully, I feel like we got to that level within, at least culturally, like within the United States, because we had these generations of relative peace and tons of prosperity, and I can't help but just the baby boomer generation, right? They came back from World War II. Their parents came back from World War II and created literally an entire lifetime of like easy living, right? Like classic cars. Like you think of like Americana over the 60s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, and it was we've started to create our own just oddly insane challenges, and then you add drug use into this, right? And part of that comes from maybe a dysfunctional family element, right? But maybe talk to me about where you're at with like the mental health, and because what I can't help but think is like as St. George starts to grow, we're gonna have the haves and have-nots are going to continue to challenge us, right? And we have Switch Point with some solutions with homelessness, but it seems like mental health is an underlying stability within our society that we need to always be looking at, even if we might not necessarily have. We got to look at the problem before we have a problem, right? Yeah. But I think culturally across the country we have the problem. Do we have it necessarily here in St. George? Maybe at a different capacity, but
yeah, it's I mean, when we think about mental health and wellness, let's say, what does that look like when it's we'd call it flourishing? You're thriving. You have fulfillment in life. It's not feeling happiness all the time. It's not feeling all the quote unquote positive energy emotions. It's feeling all the emotions and understanding them and having a high emotional intelligence, recognizing, okay, I'm self-aware of these emotions. I'm managing them. I'm expressing them. I'm having empathy for others. It's those type of things that we want to see. And to get there, it's a kind of a trial and error. You're going through your own struggles and challenges or insights, and you're learning. We tend to see the common denominator in individuals that had really traumatic, like abuse upbringings, the ones that were able to flourish outside of that, which is only about 25%. Those 25% doesn't mean 25% will only ever do that. It just means what they found in this is called the Kauai study. It's a longitudinal study. They found in those 25% of kids that came out of those really severe abusive upbringings, they all had a non-family member mentor in their lives. Could have been an aunt, uncle, grandparent, someone who didn't live in their household. Could have been a family, a friend, a teacher, someone like that. Because in those times when you're struggling, we all need somebody, we need community in our lives that we can see ourselves through. Because when we're, being really hard on ourselves, this is why it's important to have a good community, family, neighborhood, friends, your tribe. And I think we're kind of in a social kind of redesign of that. So when I think about my parents, my dad's and my mom's drive were basically get off the ranch or out of poverty. And so that was, when you think of Maslow's hierarchy, that's kind of the bottom level. Physiological and safety needs, the bottom two areas. And now I was born into an environment where I didn't necessarily have to struggle for food. But I had to struggle to discover, what fulfillment brings to me. What does that look like? How do I have an impact on the world? How the world's different because I'm here. And that's moving up higher in the Maslow's hierarchy. And that was a gift that our previous generation gave many of us. Now, not everybody's in that area, and it doesn't really matter where you're at. I think what matters is like understanding kind of who am I? Where do I find fulfillment? It's really about food security, and I need to have the physiological needs or the safety needs I have, and working towards that. Having those types of, I think they're just kind of different challenges to face. So like the challenge, how my parents face those challenges, it's different than the way this new generation is going to face those challenges. It's like moving towards self-actualization. That's a totally different level of challenges. The problem, this is where community becomes really important in kind of navigating some of that. And once you do that, then you build grit, reliance in yourself. You build confidence. I like to think about it as compounding confidence. So I have a finance background, right? We think of, if you want to make money, you kind of lean into that compounding interest model. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with confidence. Little baby steps, little wins, build the confidence to do bigger things.
Larry Summers, I was listening to it. He did a talk just the other day, and he said we went from where this idea that what we do gives us confidence, mm-hmm. right? Like the success gives us confidence, from confidence equals success, right?
Yeah.
Like today we're doing where confidence, it just have the confidence and you'll be successful, mm-hmm. versus be successful and you'll gain confidence.
Yeah,
right.
That's why it's compounding confidence, right?
Yeah.
Try little things.
Like societally, we flip those two things over. Mm-hmm. We got to go back to. We got to have successes to build that confidence. We got to continue to succeed.
That's right. Yeah. Even if you like wake up in the morning and you're feeling weird, you're off, you're feeling, you have a weird vibe. Use that strategy. So maybe you need to play the New York Times like Wordle and have a win, and then that builds the confidence to go to the gym, and then go to the gym. You're like, okay, I'm building this win. So this is what like resilience looks like, right? It's knowing the tools that work for you. So everybody has a different, I think of it as like an energy equation. What are the things that create energy for you? What are the things that consume energy? Mm-hmm. And what are the things that are important to you? And it's just optimizing that equation and because as we live in a more connected global society, there's more energy demands on us. And I think this is why people push back on others that are demanding space for them. If I come to you and say, you need to do this for me, and you need to, call me this certain name or treat me like this, and I'm demanding that from you, that's going to be an energy drain on you. And we're all biological beings that are about energy preservation. And I think a lot of this is kind of a natural biological response where I'm like, I'm going to preserve this energy for the things that I know matter the most to me and my family and my loved ones. And that's totally normal. That's totally fine, right? Yeah. I think we just need to recognize that and then optimize your own energy equation, because we live in a hyperactive hive mind world where we're connected 24/7. It doesn't mean you have to be connected 24/7. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I started paying attention to the unconscious energy drains in my life, which was getting a text message when I was in a meeting when I couldn't even read the text message. Getting a text message, not even able to read it, but knowing I got a text message was subconsciously draining energy in my mind. Yeah. And so I just turned off those notifications. The only notifications I have is calendar alerts and text messages when I'm not busy. Yeah. And so I'm putting boundaries on when I receive information. Yeah. Because I don't want to demand on other people when they should be sending me information. They should be able to send information, data, whatever, 24/7. We live in this connected world. I don't have to receive it 24/7. Yeah. And I think that this is what, going back to mental health, this is kind of what I would say I'm seeing. So I have a startup in mental health. We serve college students, university students, and we see a lot of this. It's just like knowing how to set your boundaries of when you're receiving information, knowing what's important to you. We're told all the time what's important to us. We have to decide, okay, well, does that align with my vision of who I want to become, and be able to optimize this energy equation? It almost kind of everything has boiled down to that, outside of areas where you might see some really traumatic experiences that someone needs to work through.